Hello, beautiful souls. How are you doing? So, I'm recording this on Sunday night for tomorrow morning, and tomorrow is the full moon. And this full moon is really interesting because it's all about gently letting go. And as you know, full moons are all about releasing. So, I wanted to give you a little bit of a ritual for a little grief ritual. That I hope can help to amplify the energies of the full moon and help assist you in your journey. And so today was such a beautiful day here in Vermont. I keep being so surprised. I'm new to the Vermont area, but keep being so surprised by the lushness and the level of greenery here. I guess that's why it's called the Green State Mountain. Um, or the Green Mountain State. I think I said that in reverse. The Green Mountain State. Literally everywhere you go here, it's just green everywhere, green mountains. And now that it's fall, the colors, the foliage are just stunning. It's gold and reds and yellows. It's just beautiful. And I had an amazing hike today that I did to Mount Philo that just overlooked the area. Just a stunning day. So I hope that you've given yourself an opportunity to get outside, to breathe some fresh air, to reap the benefits of being out in nature, because she is our primary technology that can help to rewire our nervous system just to breathe in fresh oxygen, and to receive all of the benefits that she has to give us, sort of grounding, feeling the breeze, placing our feet in the earth, whatever it may be, just get outside and do it, because it's a huge part, or can be a huge part of the healing process. So yes, so tomorrow is a full moon, and I wanted to talk a little bit about grief and ceremonies. I know most people don't think about celebrating grief, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Hear me out. What I'm talking about is how we're going through such massive shifts and changes when we are in the grief process. There's a lot that is transpiring that we don't really give ourselves an opportunity to pause and reflect on. Not only has change arrived, because what grief signifies that some sort of massive change has happened in our lives, right? And there's grief now because of that shift and change. And what we're trying to do, our nervous system is trying to find balance in that. And balance takes a very long time to come. And so one of the things that I have done in my grief process throughout the years is I've allowed myself to be in ceremony with my grief. And I'll give you an example. The first year anniversary, because I felt it wasn't just the passing of my husband, it was also, I also felt like a death had happened to me, that the version of myself that I had known had also died. And I felt this deep in my bones that the old me was no longer, that part of me was no longer. Yes, she existed and still does in name and everything else, but there was just this deeper knowing that I will never be the same, that I had died, and I wanted to honor the part of me that had also died. And so I had an aunt that had come up to visit me, and I asked her if she would do this death ceremony with me. And I know that might sound a little bit morbid, but because I'd done work in death and dying before, I don't see death ceremonies as morbid at all, because we go through this living life, not just with living, but also with dying. When you think back on all of the experiences that you've had in this one lifetime, There are aspects of you that have died and aspects of you that have been reborn, right? And so we're having many incarnations in this one incarnation, right? And so we're being reincarnated over and over again. We're not the same individual we were a day ago, 5 weeks ago, 5 months ago, 5 years ago. We're constantly changing. And I had this deep, deep knowing that the person that I knew, who had been a wife, who had been a lover to this person, who had this particular life, that part of me was no longer. And so I wanted to honor her. I wanted to honor this part of me. And so with the help of my aunt, I did this death ceremony where I honored all of this aspect of the me I used to be. I thanked her for everything she had done, everything she was. And the death ceremony simply allowed for that honor and that acknowledgement of what was no longer, but to also give room for the new me that was coming forward. And I have to say that it has taken me all of these 8 years to embody this new me. So it doesn't happen overnight, but I wanted to honor at that moment the inner death that I had been experiencing. And when I did that, when I took the time ceremonially to honor the aspect of me, something shifted and something opened up. I was able to walk more sure-footed in the grief journey. Because for the first year leading up to that point, I wasn't grounded. I was filled with so much fear, so much anxiety, because too much had changed too quickly and there was no preparation. There was no warning. There was nothing to prepare me for this massive, sudden transition. But once I did this ceremony for myself, and I acknowledged that not only was there this physical death that had happened to a person that I love in my life, but there was also an aspect of me that was also dying. And the honoring of that part and doing some death rites in that part to honor her enabled me to move forward a little bit more. Right? And so when we go through big losses, it's not just the death of one person or the loss of one thing. It's also what is shifting, dying, transition within us. And so with the full moon tomorrow, it's a super full moon, by the way. I wanted to give you a little ritual that you can do. And I'm actually going to post this in a link because the ritual doesn't belong to me. It belongs to a friend of mine who does Moondance Astrology, Vedic astrology. And so I'm going to share it with you here, but I'm also going to put a link in the bottom. So if you wanted to go directly to the link for the ritual, you can. And so I love doing rituals and ceremonies with the new moon and full moon. And since tomorrow is a full moon, amplifying the energy of release, I thought it would be perfect wherever you are in your grief journey. So I want to say this. If you have just experienced loss, and it's a loss that's a sudden loss, a loss of a spouse, a child, a relative, whatever it is, and it's acute grief, I want you to pause on doing anything. Because right now, the stage that you are in is not about releasing. It's about being a witness to what is happening within you. It's about allowing yourself to mourn, allowing yourself to be in that grieving state. And so, because oftentimes we want to rush out of it. And so my invitation for those of you who are going through acute grief, meaning that something has happened within the last year, last 6 months, last 3 months, this isn't for you. What is for you is to offer yourself compassion for what you are currently experiencing, to be gentle with yourself, to cry, to wail, to scream. And the full moon will support that for you. So you can still experience the amplification of the full moon, but through releasing of what's internally. Right? So for those of us who have, maybe it's been 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and there's still something that we're holding on to really tightly, I want to invite you into this ritual. All right, so let me put my glasses on, and then we're also going to do an oracle card reading to see what the full moon has for us, what message it has for us. Right? So the ritual is, and then I have a couple of questions for you as well, for your journal writing. And so what you'll need a small bowl of water, and the water represents fluidity, our emotions. And I think in the Vedic astrology, the full moon, it's in Pisces, which is our emotions. So you need a small bowl of water, a small pebble or a black crystal, or black sesame seeds, and this represents the planet Saturn, because Saturn is one of those planets that's the taskmaster. It is the planet that is all about transformation, all about us learning our lessons. So it tends to teach the big, heavy lessons in our lives. So a small pebble, a black crystal, or black sesame oil to represent Saturn. And then white flowers, milk, or some white rice. And a journal. I think those are all the things that you need. And a candle, optionally, right? So I'm looking at some of my notes so I remember. So once you have accumulated all of these things, the first step that you're going to do is to clear your space. Now you can decide best how to clear your space. You can light an incense and clear the space. If you have, you can smudge. You can do sage or Palo Santo. I personally love Palo Santo the best. When I do clearing of my space, I use Palo Santo. So clear your space and set an intention for yourself. Set an intention for why you're doing this, and then light your candle. Once you've done that, I want you to gather that small bowl of water. Gather the small bowl of water. And what I also like to do, and this is not in my notes, what I also like to do is I also like to speak my intention into the water, right? Because your voice, sound, carries information and codes and frequency. So I want you to whisper what your intention, or say it out loud into the water, so the water receives the amplification of the frequency of your voice. And so the water again is representing your emotions, and also helping us with this sense of being fluid in the experience and being fluid with our emotions. Once you're done with that, you're going to drop the pebble or the black crystal or this black sesame seed into the water. Right? And then the question that I want you to ask as you do that, the quote is, I acknowledge the difficulties I face and appreciate the wisdom they've brought me. Right? Again, this will all be in the link. I acknowledge the difficulties I face and appreciate the wisdom they've brought me. And once you've placed the offering to Saturn, right, the pebble or the black crystal, you'll add the white flowers and a splash of milk and or the white rice into the water, right? And the quote that you're going to say here is, I release with gentleness. I trust what dissolves will nourish what comes next. I release with gentleness. I trust what dissolves will nourish what comes next. Because the truth of the matter is we don't know what's going to come next. And so what we're preparing ourselves for is to be open to what comes next. Because if we're closed energetically, things can't come to us. So we want to remain open, even if it's hard, even if it's difficult. We want to leave the door ajar. It may not be flung wide open, but leave it ajar. So you tell the universe, I'm still having great difficulty being open, but, and, not but, and I am open to receiving. I'm open to receiving what's next. I'm open to being nourished. I'm open to healing. Right? So once you've added the flowers and the splash of milk or white rice, gaze into the water, soften your eyes, and invite compassion for yourself. And I really love this step that she gives here. Invite compassion for yourself. And this is so huge, right? Because we tend to be so hard on ourselves when we're grieving. And to invite just a little bit of softness around the edges of our heart, around the edges of how we maneuver in the world after grief, right? Everything doesn't have to be done all at once. You don't have to have all the answers all at once. You don't have to figure out what comes next. You don't have to figure out if you should go to work. You know, if you have to go to work, yes. But if you need extra time, that's okay. But bring in the compassion, bring in the softness, because you deserve that. You deserve to say, you know what, today I just want to rest on the couch. I just want to rest on the couch and do nothing. I'm tired, I'm exhausted. So be willing to acknowledge when you're exhausted, when you're beginning to feel that sense of burnout, and be willing to rest. Be willing to put yourself first. And maybe you can ask family or friends to help support you during this time. Don't be afraid to ask for help. This is so important. I've never been the type necessarily to ask people for help, but I realized when I was experiencing that deep grief that I couldn't do it by myself. Right? I couldn't even sleep in the bed by myself for the first month, and I had to invite my niece to sleep with me because I just couldn't. There's too much fear. Right? So once you've gazed in the water and you've invited compassion to yourself, then you can pour out the water when you're ready. But keep the pebble or stone. And that could be sort of like a talisman for you that you can carry with you, honoring the ritual that you've just done and honoring your journey. And I think there's one aspect that I'm forgetting, and let's see if I'm right or if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think we've got everything. Yes. So here is one last quote as you pour out the water. What was mine to carry, I now release. What is mine to become, I welcome. And I love this. What was mine to carry, I now release. What is mine, what is mine to become, I welcome. And so you're walking parallel with both the journey of grief and the journey of healing and the journey of your becoming. And so again, this is not for anyone who has just experienced loss. Your journey, your ritual will be to stand by the fire of your heart and welcome your tears, welcome the wail, if a wail wants to come forth, welcome wherever you're at with this new that has just happened. And so for your journal piece for the full moon, here's what I would like for you to do. I would like for you to name your grief. What has it brought up for you? What has your grief brought up for you? What dominant emotions have you felt during the grieving process? What dominant emotions have you felt during this grieving process? How have you approached your grief? Right? Have you been able to approach it with compassion, aversion, resistance? And so I want you to name that without any judgment towards yourself. This is simply about discovery, noticing, acknowledging, coming in to doing our shadow work. Fifth question, what is it you're most afraid of acknowledging? What is it you're most afraid of acknowledging? Number 6, what aspect, however small, can you surrender into the trust and hands of spirit? What aspect of this process, however small, can you surrender into the trust and hands of spirit? And then finally, number 7, what do you want to say to your heart? What do you want to say to your heart? So the heart is such a huge part of the grieving process. And sometimes we're so tough on ourselves. We're so hard, we become so rigid, and we don't invoke the heart. We don't approach the heart. We don't speak to the heart anymore. And so I would like for you, as you're journaling, to get in touch with your heart space and speak to your heart. And what would you want to say to her? And also to listen to, what does your heart have to say to you? So this ritual, this full moon is really offering us an opportunity to step into any form of release that we're ready for. This particular full moon especially, that is happening on October 6th, right? Recording this Sunday night, October 5th. So tomorrow, which will be, you'll view this, it'll be already Monday, will be the full moon. And so you can do this ritual as the moon begins to wane, so later on in the afternoon. And so I encourage you, I mean, part of this process is to get to know yourself, get to know your grief at a deeper level, get to touch it, get to discover, get to work through some of the shadowy stuff that comes up in our grief. But more importantly than that, it's to honor you. And it's to honor all of the story, the people who have been a part of your whole grieving process, including those who have passed on or whatever has passed on, if it's a thing, whatever has passed on. It's simply to acknowledge and honor that. Right? As we become more luminous in how we tend to these human experiences, we begin to show up with a sense of sacredness for everything. And this is what we're practicing. How can I experience or allow myself to experience this grief in a sacred way? Obviously, you can do whatever you want, right? These offerings that I give, they're merely suggestions and invitations. At the end of the day, you get to choose how you want to show up, how you want to dance with your grief. The only thing that I'm doing here is, as I invite you, is trying to bring the grief up out of the heaviness that it usually lays energetically. I'm not saying that we're going to stop feeling heavy, right? Because there's different stages to this grief. What I am saying is that we can walk with this grief with a new mindset. We can perceive it differently. We can perceive it in a way that allows us to walk with it more sacredly and with more compassion and openness. So I hope this little ritual helps you in a way that might bring something to the surface. It might give you some light. And beyond that, I mean, enjoy the moon, enjoy the day, enjoy the start of your day that I hope will bring some peace. And I hope that somewhere within that day, there's some joy. There's some joy, maybe some laughing as well. Don't forget to laugh. It's necessary and it's needed during the grief process, because if we tend to just be in the grief 24/7, that creates further challenges as well. So create space to laugh, to play, to have fun, to not be involved in deep, heavy things. So let's go ahead and do an oracle reading, and let's see what Spirit has, what message it has for us for the full moon. Okay. Do this here so it's not so noisy. So as I continue to do these videos, I'm also learning so much about YouTube and this platform. I'm a complete novice, so these videos are not going to be like the sharpest videos or other videos that you might see on YouTube where people have the best cameras. I'll get there in time, but for now, it's just about me showing up and assisting where I can, because right now there are a lot of people that are feeling a lot of intensity. All right, so let's go. Let's see. What message do you have for us for the full moon? Go a couple more times. Waiting for when I hear the word stop in my mind. Sometimes you just have to be patient. It's not on my time, it's on Spirit's time. There we go. Okay. So the card that came up is trust. I don't know if you guys can see that. Trust. And I love it because, let me put my glasses on, because you'll know that I can't see too well without my glasses, reading wise anyway. So there's a beach, there's water, there's a palm tree, and there's a sliver of the moon and stars. Trust. I think that is a perfect message for us for the full moon and for this ritual and for our processing through grief. Trust the process. We don't have to understand it. We may not understand it. I certainly did not understand it. I didn't understand any of it. I didn't know where it was taking me. But when we trust the process, when we trust in Spirit, however you call Spirit into your life, God, Allah, whatever it is, Source, Creator, Goddess, whatever it means, Source or the Spirit means to you, I want you to trust. Right? And maybe that's the word that you highlight tomorrow, is that I trust in this unfolding of my grief process. I may not understand it, but I'm trusting Source, I'm trusting Spirit to guide me through it. All right. Well, thank you once again for being here with me. And I'm wishing you a wonderful start to your week. And I will see you on Tuesday. Blessings to you.